minute, 10 minute, 10 minute murder. 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute murder. 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute murder. 10 minute, 10 minute, 10 minute murder.
Howdy. Welcome to 10 Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. I'm Joe, the host, and thanks for being here. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe before this episode ends, and you will never miss another episode, so long as we both shall live. And it feels like we just got married just now, and we might have, I don't know, it depends on what state you live in, but I promise I'm going to deliver at least a couple of episodes every single week, and those episodes will be brief and bingeable, except when they're not, they're a little bit longer, and those are random, so that's what you're getting from me. Today's episode, though, it's one of those where I could have made it an hour long. There is so much information out there on Jodi Arias. It's one of the most talked about crime cases in the last 10 years or so. And that may be because she's hot, or it may be because the details of this case are absolutely strange. And I'm going to do my best to give it to you in 10 minutes. Sex, lies, and dirty little secrets. This is Jodi Arias. Sex, lies, and dirty little secrets. Those words open lead defense attorney Kirk Nurmi's closing statement when he described the relationship between Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander. The relationship that had finally ended in one's death. Jodi Ann Arias was born on July 9th, 1980 in Salinas, California, to her parents Sandy and William Angelo Arias. She was part of a blended family. Jodi had 4 siblings, an older half-sister, 2 younger brothers, and a sister. By her family members, Jodi was described as a sweet and sensitive girl who loved animals. When Jodi was 11, the family moved to Santa Maria, and 3 years later to Eureka, where Jodi attended Eureka Union High School. Her classmates remember her being bubbly and very intelligent. However, Jodi closed up in larger groups and was known to be kind of shy and quiet. From a young age, Jodi had a thing for photography. She received her first camera at the age of 10. This interest followed her into adulthood, becoming a lifelong passion and would play a critical role in the most significant event later in Jodi's life. From the outside view, Jodi's childhood seemed pretty normal, but her parents saw early on that there was something different about their daughter. As a child, she defied her parents' rules and often ran away from home. Pretty usual stuff, but as Jodi got older, she started to be highly emotionally unstable. She was irritated very easily and often had extreme mood swings and bouts of anger. Every emotion she felt was turbocharged, and when Jodi was feeling bad, she repeatedly threatened suicide. Jodi's parents felt helpless with their daughter, so they became very strict with her, sometimes using physical discipline. However, Jodi later claimed that her parents had been downright abusive and used to beat her and her siblings with wooden spoons and a belt. Sometimes Jodi answered abuse with abuse, hitting or slapping her mother. As a result, she grew up feeling contempt toward her parents, which lasted most of her adult life. If you've seen pictures of the adult Jodi Arias, you know that she's very attractive. She has naturally brown hair and for a time dyed it to platinum blonde, and that seemed to suit her. And with her beauty and figure, male attention was guaranteed. And we all know getting lost in a new relationship is pretty normal. You want to spend as much time with your partner as possible. However, in Jodi's case, she completely lost herself when dating. Literally, her whole identity changed according to her partner. I know it sounds cliche, but she did actually need someone to complete her. Unfortunately, her friends noticed Jodi's pattern of picking bad boys. On more than one occasion, her boyfriends were caught cheating, which caused problems in Jodi's later relationships. And as a side note, that does not have anything to do with this case, Jodi's boyfriend, not long before she met Travis Alexander, who we'll talk about in just a couple of moments, her boyfriend that she lived with for a time and was with off and on was a vampire hunter. And I wish I was making that up, but he believed in vampires, and he believed that there was a congregation of them living in San Francisco, and he wanted to move there to hunt vampires. In September 2006, Jodi met 29-year-old Travis Alexander at a prepaid legal services convention in Las Vegas. Travis worked as a motivational speaker and a sales representative for the company, and the two chatted briefly. However, when they eventually parted ways, Jodi didn't give much thought to Travis. She still had a boyfriend at that time, the vampire hunter, but Travis had other plans. He pursued Jodi throughout the convention, taking her to a banquet and inviting her to sit with him in executive-level seating. All of that made a huge impression on Jodi. Still, Jodi didn't know what Travis's true intentions were. Did he just want her for the firm, or was there something else? However, when Travis and Jodi enjoyed dinner together on Saturday night, it became clear that he wanted romance. "I wish you didn't have a boyfriend," he said, leaving Jodi to question her relationship. After the convention, Jodi sat down with her boyfriend and spoke about her hopes to get married and have children, things that he did not want to pursue. However, during that same conversation, he told Jodi that his ex-wife was moving with his son to Monterey. That would have meant a 10-hour drive for him if he wanted to see his son. So he told Jodi he was looking for a job and planning to move to Monterey also. It's not clear if Jodi's relationship ended after that conversation, at least according to her boyfriend. However, Jodi started to live like a single woman after that, available to pursue a romance with Travis. Jodi and Travis lived in different states at the time. Travis was in Mesa, Arizona, and Jodi was in Palm Desert, California. But that didn't slow them down. The two kept in contact almost every day in the following weeks in every way possible, by emails, text messages, and lengthy late-night phone calls. Jodi and Travis wanted to learn everything about each other. Soon, like in her previous relationships, Jodi began to adapt her identity to match Travis's identity. Those who were close to Travis just thought the two had a lot in common. Jodi's ex-boyfriend Daryl, however, who still lived with Jodi, saw a significant change. According to him, Jodi did not seem as rational and logical anymore. She appeared less responsible. And while Daryl didn't know anything about Travis, he knew for sure that this woman was not the same one that he used to love. In November of that year, just a couple months after their first meeting, Jodi converted to Mormonism. From the outside view, one would have thought that they were a lovely, virtuous Mormon couple. But behind closed doors, Jodi and Travis's relationship was highly sexual and tempestuous. However, Travis seemed to have two sides. On the phone, he was able to talk for hours, sharing his deepest, darkest secrets, but in front of him, everything was just physical. And Jodi noticed the lack of mental connection when they were together, and it caused her to panic, and everybody noticed. Sky Hughes, a friend of Travis, later told how Jodi would follow him everywhere like a little puppy. When Travis sat down, Jodi had to be on his lap. If Travis left his phone unattended, Jodi would go through all of his messages, or if he took a call in another room, Jodi would stay right outside, eavesdropping. The thing was, Jodi wanted more than Travis did. Travis had made Jodi aware that he didn't wish to have an extremely serious relationship at this point of his life, but then, to everybody's surprise, on February 2nd, 2007, after a discussion of their situation, Jodi and Travis became an official couple, at least for the moment. Meanwhile, Sky and her husband Chris grew even more concerned about Jodi. In April 2007, they spoke to Travis privately in their bedroom, telling him all about Jodi's weird behavior, her habit of reading his emails and eavesdropping on his phone calls. It didn't seem to concern Travis very much. However, Sky said Jodi was not welcomed in their home anymore and added, quote, "I'm afraid we're going to find you cut up inside her refrigerator." Then, on June 29th, 2007, Jodi and Travis ended their nearly 5-month relationship. Jodi had found out Travis cheated on her, and Travis still did not see a future with Jodi, so it was time to move on. Soon, Travis started to date another girl, Lisa Andrews, who seemed to be everything he hoped for a future partner, and still he kept in contact with Jodi, who now planned to move to Mesa where Travis also lived. The decision made Travis very angry, and his friend heard him yelling at her on the phone, telling her, "I don't want you close to me." However, Jodi didn't listen and relocated to Mesa in late July. Travis and Jodi, still after everything they had been through, continued having an unhealthy relationship, and I'm using air quotes on relationship, where they would have sex, argue, make up, and have sex again. Jodi and Travis would even still travel together. Travis wanted to check off as many destinations as possible listed in 1,000 places to see before you die. Unfortunately, he would never be able to finish that. Then all hell broke loose one day when Jodi appeared in Travis's house without notice and saw him with Lisa. Jodi started to stalk them, appearing at Lisa's apartment, slashing her tires, and sending threatening emails. And still, Travis did not believe his ex-girlfriend could be dangerous. he would still occasionally meet up with Jodi for purposes. Travis was hopeful for the year 2008. He even wrote down, "This year will be the best year of my life." He had big plans, but unfortunately, Travis would not carry out any of those plans. On June 9th, 2008, Travis's lifeless body was found in a pool of blood in the shower of his home. He missed a business trip to Cancun, Mexico. Travis had been shot in the face, and he had 24 stab wounds on his body, and his throat was also slit. It had been determined that he was killed 5 days before, on June 4th, 2008, in his master bathroom before he had been dragged to the shower stall. It was clear that whoever was behind the gruesome murder knew Travis and had unbelievable rage toward him. While searching Travis's home, police found a camera in the washing machine. Recovered images showed Jodi and Travis in sexual poses, as well as photographs of just Travis before, during, and after the murder. Jodi's passion for photography decided her fate. Jodi was eventually indicted on first-degree murder charges on July 9th, 2008, and arrested in California soon after. Her story about her whereabouts and the events of June 4th changed numerous times. First, she had not ever been near Travis's house, then said there was a home invasion gone wrong, and then she said she was actually a victim of domestic violence and had killed Travis in self-defense. Jodi's trial that began in early January 2013 was a media madhouse. Jodi herself testified for 18 consecutive days, including very detailed parts of her and Travis's sex life. Jodi had also come up with a new story as to what happened. She killed Travis after he came at her in a fit of rage when she dropped his camera. None of those stories worked, and she was eventually convicted of first-degree murder in March 2013. The prosecution was gunning for the death penalty, but in the end, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision on whether to sentence her to death or not. And finally, Jodi Arias was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And although Jodi did not plead guilty by reason of insanity during her trials, many believe she suffers from some kind of personality or mental disorder. But one thing is for sure, Jodi wanted to keep Travis all for herself, one way or the other. That's today's 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. Thanks for listening today. And if you are new to this podcast, as I mentioned at the beginning, make sure you're subscribed so that in the future you don't have to go searching for 10-Minute Murder. You might even forget what the name of it is, and you just lose it forever, thinking there was this one podcast where the guy was kind of a dork, but it was a brief and bingeable kind of podcast. So let's avoid all that now. Hit subscribe now, and you will never miss another future episode of 10-Minute Murder. You can also connect with 10-Minute Murder on social media. I'll leave the links in the show notes of this episode, or just go to Facebook or Instagram and type in 10-Minute Murder into the search bar, and it'll pop right up. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.